Okay, good morning, everybody. I am going to work out the problems for your homework on video so that you can see the work associated with that. So this video is numbers 1 through 8 on page 161, which is your homework for chapter 3. So what we have here is the directions just say perform the indicated operations and simplify. So here is where we are putting everything together. So we're combining like terms, we're simplifying everything into its simplest form. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each individual binomial, and I'm going to see if there's anything I can combine inside the parentheses or if there's anything I need to distribute. So for this first one, I've got negative 3x minus 1, and I just pull that down because there's nothing that needs to be distributed and there's nothing that can be combined. The next one is the same. I have 9x minus 2. This one, I've got to distribute my negative. So we've got to be sure that we get that negative to both. So we've got negative 4x and minus 8. So now what we're going to do is we are going to combine our like terms. So we've got negative 3x, then we have positive 9x, and then we have negative 4x. So those all together, negative 3x and 9x is positive 6x. Positive 6x and negative 4x is going to leave me with positive 2x. Now, my others that I need to combine are my constants. So I have negative 1, negative 2, and negative 8. So negative 1, negative 2, and negative 8 give me negative 11. So 2x minus 11 is my answer. Okay, now for number 2. Number 2, we are using exponent properties. So here we have negative 6xy to the second times 8x to the third y squared. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is we're going to look and see if there's anything outside the parentheses that I need to address. Is there an exponent right here that belongs to everything in the parentheses, or is there an exponent right here that belongs to everything in the parentheses? And there's not. So what I do in this situation is I deal with my numbers first. So I'm going to look at my negative 6 and my positive 8. And so negative 6 times positive 8 is negative 48. And so I've dealt with my numbers, my coefficients. The next thing that I'm going to deal with is my x's. Now here we've got x, and there's no exponent associated with that x. So I am going to write a 1 right here so that I am reminding myself that that is raised to the first power. So here I have x to the first times x to the third, and they are being multiplied, so that means I add their exponents. So I have x to the first times x times x times x. Okay, and so that is how I get x to the fourth. Now we are going to do that again with our y's. I have y squared times y squared, and so that is y to the fourth. And so I have negative 48, x to the fourth, y to the fourth. And that is the answer to number 2. So for number 3, we do have a different property here. So for this property right here, we have to raise everything inside the parentheses to the third power. So because this 3 is on the outside, we have to raise everything to the third power, and that includes our negative 3. And sometimes students get confused by that. So this is negative 3 to the third power. That means the negative is being raised to the third power and the 3 is being raised to the third power. Then we have x squared. That is being raised to the third power. And when you've got an exponent raised to an exponent, that is when you multiply the exponents, because what that means is we have x squared 3 times. Okay, so x squared times x squared times x squared, that gives me x to the 6th. So x squared raised to the third power is x to the sixth. Then we're going to do that with y. So we have y to the fourth, and that is raised to the third power. So we are going to multiply our exponents, and so we are going to have y to the 12th. Now, negative 3 to the third power, that is something that we can figure out. So we have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 and negative 3 is positive 9, times another negative 3 is negative 27. So our final answer here is negative 27, x to the 6th, y to the 12th. Okay? Now, for number 4, we need to FOIL. So this is a binomial times another binomial. And anytime that we have a binomial times a binomial, we are FOILing. Okay, sorry about that. I got interrupted on my iPad. FOILing is a special distributive property. And what we have to do is we are essentially taking the 5x and we are multiplying the 5x times everything in the second binomial. Then we are multiplying negative 7 times everything in the second binomial. So for FOIL, that's first. So we have 5x times 4x. And that gives me 20x squared. Okay, then we have our outer terms. Our outer terms are 5x times 9, and that gives me 45x. Whoops, sorry about that. It's 45x. Okay, and then our inner terms are negative 7 times positive 4x. So that is going to be negative 7 times 4x. That's going to give me negative 28x. And then my last are negative 7 times positive 9, and that's going to give me negative 63. But we have to look and see if there's any like terms that we can combine. And there are. So 45 and negative 28 are like terms, and they can be combined. So we have to combine those. So we have 20x squared plus, that's going to be 17x. Yes, 17x minus 23. Okay, and so that is, we have FOILed this. Okay, so number 5 is also asking us to FOIL. And we have two binomials here, so we are going to FOIL this. So we have our first terms. 3n times 2n squared is 6n, or I'm sorry, 3n times 2n is 6n squared. Our outer is 3n times negative 3. That gives me negative 9n. My inner is negative 2 times positive 2n, so I have negative 4n. And my last is negative 2 times negative 3, which gives me positive 6. So I have 6n squared minus 13n plus 6. And that is my answer when I have FOILed these two. The next one is more complicated because we have a binomial cubed. So we are cubing a binomial. Now there is a pattern that you can memorize for a cubed binomial. I actually think it's easier just to multiply it out than trying to memorize all the different patterns. So this is x minus 4y, x minus 4y, and x minus 4y. Now, a very common mistake, very common mistake, and it is wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. Is students say, okay, well, it's x to the third minus 4 to the third times y to the third, okay? And that is incorrect, very incorrect, okay? You have to keep that binomial as a unit. It's x minus 4y times x minus 4y times x minus 4y. So just like if I had 4 times 2 times 6, I would multiply my 4 times 2 together, and I would get 8. And then I would say 8 times 6 is 48. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our first two together, Then we're going to multiply that answer times our third. So I'm just going to FOIL this. That's what we're going to do. X times x is x squared. Okay. Then I have x times negative 4y. So I'm going to have minus 4xy. And then I do that again. Negative 4y times x. So I'm going to have minus 4xy. And then my last term is positive 16y squared. Okay, and I can combine these two terms right here. So I have x squared minus 8xy plus 16y squared. Okay, and now we're going to bring down x minus 4y. And what we're going to do, and I'm probably going to do this in different colors. So my first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take this x squared and I'm going to multiply it times x and negative 4y. So I have x squared times x, so that's going to be x to the third. And then I have x squared times negative 4y. So that's going to be minus 4x squared y. Okay, now let's do the next one. We'll do it in a different color. So now I've got negative 8xy, and I need to multiply that times x and times negative 4y. So negative 8, I don't have any other variable or any other coefficient there, so I'm just going to keep my negative 8. Then I have x times x, which is x squared, and then I have my y. So I have negative 8x squared y, and now I need to multiply negative 8 times negative 4, which is positive 32, and then I'm going to have x times nothing, so I'm just left with x, and then I have y times y, which is y squared. Okay, and then the last one that I'm going to do is 16y squared times x, and 16y squared times negative 4y. So my 16 just stays, so I have minus 16. I don't have an x to combine it with, so I'm just going to have x left, and then y squared. Okay, then I have, and I'm going to erase a little bit of this over here so we don't run out of room. So then I have 16 times negative 4, and that's going to be negative 64. 16 times negative 4 is going to be negative 64. Then I have y squared times y. That's going to be y to the third. Now what I need to do is combine like terms. I need to combine like terms. And there's a few in here, I think. So we'll find them. So x to the third, I don't have anything that I can combine x to the third with. So there's x to the third. Here I have x raised to the second power and y raised to the first power. So I can combine these two right here because their x is raised to the same power and y is raised to the same power. So here I'm going to have negative 12x squared y. Okay, now it looks like I've got another set that I can combine, 32xy squared and 16xy squared. So when I combine those two, I am going to get 48xy squared. And then my last one, there's nothing to combine with that one, so I've got negative 64y to the third. Okay? And so that is number 6. Okay, so number 7, we get to do something like that again for number 7. What we have here is we have a binomial times a trinomial. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to do the same thing that we did kind of our second part of number 6. I've got to take this x, and I need to multiply it by 2x squared minus x and minus 5. So I have x times 2x squared. That gives me 2x to the third. Then I have x times negative x. So that's going to give me negative x squared. Then I have x times negative 5. So I have negative 5x. Okay, now I am going to do that again. except I'm going to do my 6. So I have 6 times 2x squared, 6 times negative x, and 6 times negative 5. Okay, so 6 times 2x squared is plus 12x squared. 6 times negative x is negative 6x. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Okay, now we combine like terms. So I have 2x to the third, and that's pretty much going to be by itself. There is nothing that can be combined with that, so we leave it as 2x to the third. Then I have negative x squared and 12x squared. So that is going to be positive 11x squared. Okay, then I have negative 5x and negative 6x. So that is negative 11x. And then I am left with negative 30. And that is number 7. For number 8, we are dividing. So we've got negative 70 x to the 4th, y to the 3rd, over 5x y squared. So what we're going to look at first is we are going to look at my numbers right here. I'm going to look at this right here. So 5 goes into both of these. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 70 14 times, but don't forget that negative. So we're going to have negative 14. So negative 14 is going to be part of our answer. Okay, then we're going to look at our x's. I have x to the 4th on top, and don't forget on the bottom I have x to the 1st. So when we are dividing exponents, we subtract. So it's just like x times x times x times x, that's x to the 4th, over x. So we can cancel one of those, and I'm left with x to the 3rd. So I subtract those. And then I have y to the 3rd over y squared, so I can subtract those exponents, and I am left with y. And that is number 8. So my final answer here is negative 14 x to the 3rd y. Okay, and I am going to stop this video, and then I am going to upload a video of the factoring. So look for a second video on factoring.